Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, I'm Fourica Yanottama from English Study Program in Duta Bangsa University Surakarta. In this video, I will sharing about all materials of morphology and syntax, or we can say all materials of morphosyntax. So let's get starting. First is a meaning of morphology. As we know that morphology is the branch of linguistics that studies about form of words. And then in morphology, there is a morphem. That means a meaningful morphological unit that cannot be further divided. Or we can say that morphology is a morphological element considered with respect to its functional relation in linguistic system. So why we should learn morphology? I think because morphological awareness is help us to comprehend read text easily. We will continue about word classes. That I know there are four major of word classes. The first is noun. The function is can be subject in a sentence, or in other function is being a name of person, place, animal, or a thing. And then the second is verb. As we know, verb is a bridge of subject and object, or in other function is to communicate the action being done, or someone or something that's being. And then the third is adjective. Adjective is to modify a noun. And then adverb. Adverb is to modify a verb. Next is lexical content words. Lexical content words is represent class, represent open class. Such new word can be easily added to this class. As we can know that sentence was built by subject, verb, and object. But we know that subject is always noun, but actually subject can built by others word classes such as pronouns, clause, a gerund, gerund phrase, and then infinitive and infinitive phrase. When we studying about a phrase, there are two similar phrases. The first is absolute phrase and then appositive phrase. So what the meaning of them and what the function of them? Absolute phrase is a combination of noun and pronouns as well as participle with or without using modifiers. And this type is used to explain independent clauses paired by commas, whereas appositive phrase is a combination of nouns, gerunds, and infinitive phrase used to describe noun and other pronouns. When we studying about word formation, we will also study about abbreviation and acronym. The question is, are they has a similar meaning? No, because abbreviation is any certain or contracted form of a word or phrase, and acronym is a specific type of abbreviation formed from the first letters of a multi-word term. So abbreviation is just a certain word or phrases, but acronym is a certain of multi-word, and they took the first letter of a word. This is based on knowledge that I learned. We will talking about morphem. That there is a question: our slang has a morphem? I think slang also have morphem because slang is one of the forms of word formation. Either it's made of acronym, or maybe clipping, or maybe compounding, or maybe fresh and creative and others. And as we know that word formation is one of the material from morphology language, from morphology knowledge, And morpheme is the smallest unit that has a meaning. And slang is a word, even it's an acronym, but they have a meaning. This is the reason why slang also has a morpheme. There are two terms of morpheme. Please explain them. Okay. There are two terms of morpheme. The first is free, and the second is bound morpheme. That we can see from the name, we know that the meaning of free is can stand alone, and bound is cannot stand alone. So the free morpheme is morpheme that can stand alone with a specific meaning, like it, dead, weak, or others. Whereas a bound morpheme is a morpheme that can appear only as part of a larger expressions. Or in a simple meaning is a morpheme that cannot stand alone. The difference between inflectional and derivational. Inflectional morpheme only indicates a different aspect of the word, and then derivational morpheme often changes the part of speech of a word and incurs a significant change in the meaning of the word. How is the morphology built? Morphology process is a formation process, word changing that include affixation, reduplicate, either a part of word or all of the word, and then acronym and conversion. Which is the more productive morpheme, un or able? I think it's able because able is more productive because it can be added to any verb, but un has limitation. Are every language has their morphology? No, why? Because some languages are isolating and have a little to no morphology. Others are agglutinative whose words tend to have many easily sparable morphemes. Others yet are inflectional or fusional because their inflectional morphemes are fused together. Lexeme is basic lexical unit of a language consisting one word or several words, considered as an abstract unit and applied to a family of words related by form or meaning. What is lexical items? Lexical items is a single word, a part of word, or chain of words that forms the basic elements of language lexicon. What are allomorph? In linguistics, allomorph is any of phonological represent of a single morpheme. For example, the final S and Z of beds and beds are allomorph of English noun plural morpheme. The morpheme of three words unbelievable, speakers, and understand. The first is unbelievable. Unbelievable has three morphemes. The first is un, and then the second is believe as a free morpheme, and then able. Able in here as a suffix, but un in unbelievable is a bound morpheme that cannot stand alone. And then the second is speakers. Speakers has two morphemes. The first is speak as a free morphemes, and then as in here is suffix or as a bound morphemes. And then the third is understand. Understand has only one morphemes because this word is not composed by two words in English that meaning under and stand. Even though these two parts are etymological the source of the single English morpheme understand. A functional morphem has a similar meaning with free morphem. They can stand alone, but functional morphem, it is not clear what will be conveyed by them. The functional morphem divided into four morphems. Into four. The first is conjunction. The second is preposition. The third is articles, and the last is pronouns. Inflectional morphology. Inflectional morphology is the study of processes, including affixation and vowel changes, and that distinguish word form in certain grammatical categories. I think noun can change into adverbs with adding suffix "ly", like the example below. The first is a friend changed into friendly, and then coward changed into cowardly, and then cost changed into costly. And then from other adjective into adverbs, I think it's so many examples from adjective that change into adverbs, because essentially if we want to change adjective into adverbs, we just adding "ly" in the back of word. According to Marchand, there are four terms of clipping. The first is for clipping, the second is back clipping, the third is middle clipping, and then the fourth is clipping compound. This is a new knowledge for me, is orthographic word. What is orthographic word? Orthographic word is a set of conventions for reading a language, including norms of spelling, hyphenation, capitalization, word breaks, and emphasis and punctuation. And this is more transnational language in the modern period have a rating system, and most of these systems have undergone substantial standardization, thus exhibiting less dialect variation than the spoken language. So we will continue into the part 2 is talking about syntax, and the first is what meaning of syntax in linguistic. Syntax is the arrangement or order of words determined by both the reader's style and grammar rules. So in syntax there are phrase structure rules and transformational rules. So what's the difference between them? The first is phrase structure rules. Phrase structure rules is rewrite rules to describe a given language syntax, and then transformational rules is a rule that transform syntactic structure. So the difference between them is phrase structure rules is to generate a phrase structure of a sentence, and then transformational rules is act on phrase structure to create a complex sentence. How we recognize part of speech? So for example, in a sentence, there's a subject and object that can be filled by a noun or pronouns, and then there are other words. The first is if there is a word that modify a noun, this is adjective. And then if there's a word that assign an action, this is a verb. And there's a word that modify a verb, this is a adverb. So basically, if we want to recognize part of speech, we have to know first about word clauses. So, what the function of syntax? Basically, in linguistics, syntax function is to arrangement of word and phrases. So, how the good structure of sentence? The good structure sentence, I think it requires a subject and a verb, and expresses complete thought. Or in syntax, the good structure is must be consist a noun phrase and verb phrase. So what the function of phrase structure rules? Like my explanation before about phrase structure rules and transformational rules, that phrase structure rules is to generate a phrase structure of a sentence. So there's a phrase, more exciting ideas. In this explanation, I will show you a phrase, two phrase, because this phrase is ambiguity in English or has two meanings. So the first is equivalent to that of more ideas that exciting, and then the others is correspond with ideas that are more exciting. On both interpretation, the syntactic function of more is that a modifier, or notice that it can be omit. And then the difference in interpretation is a matter of whether more modifies just exiting, as in B explanation, or correspond with ideas that are more exiting, or exiting ideas, that is ideas which happen to be modified by exiting, as in equivalent to that of more ideas that exiting. And then the markers of them, the markers of A and B. The first is there's a phrase, and then which brands. This is a more, and then a phrase. And in phrase, there's brands again, and consists exiting and ideas. And for B is there's a phrase in here, and then there's a branch. The first branch is phrase. Phrase in here consists more exiting and then ideas. So it is ambiguity. There's a two explanation about the meaning of more exiting ideas. So the next is auxiliary verb, the kind of auxiliary verb and the explanation. The first is auxiliary verb that express a tense. In here, the function of auxiliary verb that express a tense is to showing a tense in the sentence. And then auxiliary verb that express a mood. In here, the function is to showing this is a form of question sentence or a comment sentence. And then the auxiliary verb that express the voice. In here, the function of auxiliary verb that express the voice is allows the readers to change the voice of sentence from active sentence into passive sentence. I'm sorry. And then the last is auxiliary verb that express modality. In here, possibility or ability, and these are called modal auxiliary. Sentence in grammatically. Sentence is a grammatical unit consisting of one or more words that bear minimal syntactic relation to the words that precede or follow it, and then express itself in the form of a statement, question, instruction, or exclamation, which start with the capital letters and ends with a full stop when written. Basic syntactic rules. The first, the basic rules of syntax in English is all sentence requires a subject and a verb, And then a single sentence should include one main idea, and then the subject comes first, the verb comes second, and then subordinate clause or dependent clause also requires a subject and a verb. What the function of a positive phrase? Like my explanation before about a positive phrase, that the function is to describe a noun and other pronouns. And then next is lexicon. As we know, lexicon is the component of linguistic system which can be regarded a list or network of words or lexical entries. And then the next question is neologism. What is that? Okay, neologism is a newly developed or coined word that has started to evolve into mainstream usage. The example of neology is cyberspace, and then there also staycation and scored. And then affixation. Affixation, I think this is one of word formation that by giving suffix, prefix, or in a simple meaning, affixation is word formation by giving affix. So there are four process affixation among other prefix. We can edit affixation in the front of word, and then suffix in the back word, infix in the middle of word, and then circumfix. Circumfix is the affixation by added affix in front and back the word. This is an interesting question about sign language. Our sign language has a syntax. In American Sign Language, we have a different syntax. In general, the order of our words in a sentence follows as topic and comment. This is also called subject and predicate sentence structure. Plus, you will often see this structure time, topic, and comment. This is about sign language or syntax in sign language. Okay, we will talking about subcategorization frame for three words. The first is put, the second is donate, the third is love. Okay, the first is put. So what the categorization frame for this word? You know what is signed. I think I will give a picture in here. So I just will explain about the sign. Sign in here, put is a form of transitive verb, and then donate is the form of this transitive verb, and then love is intransitive verb. And then next we will talking about clause. Clause in here, the meaning of clause is comprised of a group of words that include a subject and infinitive verb. In other words, clause is a group of words containing a subject and predicate and functioning as a member of complex or compound sentence. And then the kind of clause is are independent clause and dependent clause. Independent clause, it function on its own, make a meaningful sentence, and looks much like a regular sentence. And then dependent clause, it cannot function its own because it leaves an idea or thought unfinished. And then the last is about the relationship between morphology and syntax. As we've learned so far in this material, morphology is concerned with the way in which words are formed in the language of a word, and syntax is concerned with identifying roles that allows us to combine words into phrases and phrases into sentence. Okay, we will drawing a tree diagram of the sentence. The gold miner found the diamond. Okay, before it, we will classify the word in here. The in here as article, and go in here modify the noun in here. So the go in here as adjective, and then this is a noun, and found in here as a verb, and then article again, and then noun as an object. So we will drawing sentence. Sentence in here consists noun phrase and verb phrase. Noun phrase in here consists 3 words. The first is article, and then adjective, and noun. Article in here is the, could, and minor. So verb phrase in here, there are also 3 words: verb, article, and noun. Verb in here is found, and then the, and then diamond. This is a tree diagram of this sentence. The second sentence that we will draw the tree diagram is that boy took the money from the bank. So we will classify verbs. In here, there's that boy as a noun phrase, and then verb, and then article, and money in here is a noun. From is conjunction. The is article. Bank is adverb of place. Or it will be a noun also. So the sentence in here consists a noun phrase. A noun phrase in here consists 2 article or determine and determiner, and then noun. That. Oh, I'm sorry, this is not article, but is to modify or is to modify a noun. So this is adjective, and then in here is boy. Verb phrase in here, I think this is not conjunction but preposition. So verb phrase in here consists 3. The first is a verb, and then there's a noun phrase and prepositional phrase. Verb in here is found, and then noun phrase in here, article, and noun. This is the, and money. And then prepositional phrase in here. Also, there are 3 preposition, and then article and noun. Preposition in here is from, article is the, and then a noun is bang. So this is a tree diagram of this sentence. I think that's all. I'm sorry if I have a mistake. So thank you to watching my videos that talking about all materials of morphology and syntax. See you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.